All right, we've been listening to this press conference in Elizabeth City, North Carolina. We've heard, you're seeing right now, the city manager, Montre Freeman, speak. We heard from the mayor, Betty Parker. We also heard from the chief of police, Eddie Buffalo. I want to be really clear here. The chief of police is not over the agency who shot Andrew Brown in the back. That was the sheriff's office. They were very clear about that point. And let me just review what has happened. 42-year-old Andrew Brown Jr. was shot at around 8:30 a.m. on Wednesday this week after deputies were attempting to serve him a search warrant in the Elizabeth City, North Carolina neighborhood. According to the family attorney, they say that Mr. Brown was unarmed. We cannot confirm at NBC News that he was shot in the back. However, according to audio dispatch, that is certainly what is being suggested based on that. Since then, 3 deputies from the county sheriff's office have resigned. 7 remain on paid administrative leave. That's according to the public information officer. And he says the resignations are unrelated to the shooting incident, even though these resignations happened only after the audio dispatch recordings were published. What the community is asking and demanding is for release of this body cam footage. I want to bring in my panel now, and that's Jason Johnson, MSNBC political contributor and host of the Slate podcast, A Word with Jason Johnson. Brittany Packnett Cunningham is back with us. She's an MSNBC contributor and founder of Love and Power Works. And Paul Butler, an MSNBC legal analyst and author of Chokehold: Policing Black Men. Jason, I want to start with you because you and I have spoken a lot about why there is some hesitancy to celebrate this verdict in the Chauvin trial, because we know that these incidents happen so frequently. That point has been punctuated this week. I have to say, this press conference was more of a process update instead of a substantive update. Explain to our viewers why it's so important that we see this body cam footage.
Well, because honestly, Tiffany, we didn't hear anything in this press conference. It was a bunch of people introducing each other, slapping each other on the back, saying we actually weren't directly involved in this, but we're making a request. So it doesn't really inform anybody of anything. This body camera footage cannot be released because apparently the local law says that it can't be released without a court order, even though at one point apparently the family was promised that they would privately be able to see the video. This is why this is a problem as far as issues of just politics and public confidence. How am I supposed to trust anything the police say? We don't know what they could be doing to the video. Why can't the video be released just like a police report? Why can't video from body cameras be directly sent to some sort of data portal where it can be accessed by city council immediately and doesn't have to be filtered through the police? This is why people like myself had legitimate apprehension about the significance of what happened earlier this week. Just because we have the perfect storm of video camera footage and protests and everything else like that, put one police officer away, it does not necessarily change the problems in overall policing, and why I say we have to abolish policing as it exists today, because these problems are endemic. The fact that we've had multiple shootings this week, and again, Tiffany, these are ones we've heard about because there is footage. Right. Who knows what else could be happening in this country? That's why there's reason for skepticism.
Yeah, I completely agree. Brittany, Jason brought up a point that I think you and I may agree on. The tone of this press conference was interesting. It felt a little pastor's anniversary, you know, with the praising of the mayor. Again, we didn't get a lot of substance out of this. So I'm curious your thoughts on this. And I do want to let our viewers know that Sheriff Tommy Wooten held a Facebook Live last night and said if any of his deputies broke any laws or violated any policies that come out through this investigation, that they will be held accountable. You know, these are 2 different agencies here, but talk to me your thoughts on this press conference.
I mean, I did find it a little strange. At moments, I felt like I was watching a church program and not something that is unfortunately deadly serious. We have to be incredibly precise about what is happening in communities across this country, Black, brown, and indigenous ones especially. This is terror. This is consistent, violent terror. It is rooted in white supremacy. It is rooted in the protection of property and white wealth and the controlling and terrorizing of Black and brown bodies. To treat it any other kind of way is to insult the communities that you are representing. We also have to recognize that this cultural moment has shifted. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, maybe city leadership would not have known precisely how to conduct a press conference. But unfortunately, we've got plenty of information for how exactly to press play on these kinds of things. And this cultural movement and moment has shifted. So Jason brought up abolition, and I know that this idea scares a lot of people, but I often remind folks that there is a precedent for abolition in this country, and it's high time for us to be that courageous again. I think of the words of Mariame Kaba, a longtime abolitionist, when she says abolition is creative. If you are curious about what abolition can look like, pick up her book, We Do This Till We Free Us. Go read How I Became an Abolitionist in the Atlantic by Derica Purnell, and think about the fact that abolition is not just about what we replace, but it is also about how we build a world that leads with care instead of control and justice instead of punishment. It doesn't have to scare us if we allow it to excite us, that we get the privilege and opportunity to build a world that actually works for all of us. That is how we have to address this, from every single press conference to every single case to how we approach this thing at the systemic level.
Paul, I want to bring you in on following those great points that Brittany just made. So something I think our viewers should know, they were serving a search warrant to Mr. Brown at the time that he was shot. I found it interesting that they were clear, hey, this was not us. This was the sheriff's office doing this. What's the process in that? Like, how do you decide what agency is going to execute a search warrant to people like that? And how often are these serving of warrants deadly? Do we even have that data?
We don't have that data because policing in the United States is not transparent. And we're seeing here how it's not accountable. Apparently, an unarmed man was shot in the back. The city officials or county officials, including the sheriff, apparently have the discretion to release the body cam, but they will not. That's unacceptable. That's the opposite of transparency and accountability. The mayor and the city manager say they don't know more than anybody else. I understand that it's a county sheriff, but if those officers have police power in Elizabeth City, those officers should be accountable. The police have more power than the city's elected leaders. That's unacceptable. That's the opposite of democracy.
Yeah, you make a very good point, Paul. I couldn't agree with you more. We're unfortunately going to have to leave it right there. Thank you so much, Jason Johnson. He'll be on live on Instagram with me after the show. Brittany Packnett Cunningham and Paul Butler for coming to join us this morning.